Also, if you are on live stream, then you can ask questions in the chat box, and then Logan will be your representative to ask those questions. So at this point, I motion to start the meeting. Anyone want a second? Anyone? Thank you. All right, Logan, would you please come on up and give us a recap of what's been happening? Because I'm interested. I really would love to know what's been happening this last year.
So, a couple things. First off was no one online heard anything Nate just said. So that was fun. So anyways, if you're online, I think you guys are hearing it now. Nate, just to recap, Doug has been approved for our to be on the board, and Farah and Carol now are approved to be on the nominating committee. Those are the headliners, at least. Everyone clap. Oh yeah, everyone's clapping. Woo! We like yeah, it was perfect. To recap. Yeah. So if you are online in the chat, if you're on YouTube, go ahead and type questions if you have them in the chat, and I'll go ahead and relay them overhand. There's like a slight delay, and then I'll also try to find the right moment for it. But yeah, if you have questions, type in the chat, and then I will refer them to Nate. And yeah, and if you guys have questions at any point, these are pretty informal. Just kind of raise your hand. We'll also have time for questions at the end. But yeah, just that's like kind of more efficient way to do it. So I want to recap a little bit of this last year at church. It's been a crazy year. It's been a different year. I'm sure churches all over the place are having these meetings and be like, wow, 2020 was crazy. But there was some exciting stuff that happened. I mean, it was cool. It was just really cool to be a part of Cornerstone this last year. We had, obviously Sam left at the end of 2019, December there, and we did this whole 2020 without that role filled. But man, people stepped up in a lot of big ways. I think of especially, I was just thinking of this, like the sound and tech crew here, Kevin right there, like adjusting the camera. But yeah, you guys are like 8:30 every single Sunday here setting up, and that's been just a lot of time and dedication, and it's cold, and then it gets hot, and it's just like, the temperature change is uncomfortable. So, anyways, but I really appreciate those guys, and other ways too. Like, especially our board members. Like Jay Chun's not able to be here today, and Jay's the one who Doug is replacing on the board because his 4-year term is just up, or his second 2-year term's up. And I just really appreciate all that the board did. Okay, this is normally the board job here at Cornerstone is a little less intensive than it was this last year. It was a lot more. Like, I know the board guys here are just like, yep, that was a lot more than we bargained for. So they did a great job stepping up and providing some real leadership in the church at this time. So I really appreciate them. And just So some highlights of ministry. Ministry has looked really different this last year than it has my previous 3.5 years here at Cornerstone. It has been different and strange in many ways. So we've kind of gone through some ebbs and flows. Like there's some like youth ministry, for example, which is normally my main thing, was in many ways like non-existent last year. I mean, we weren't meeting at all. Like I was hanging out with kids kind of one-on-one and catching up with them, and Carol was doing that too. Right there's Carol. But besides that, I mean, like youth ministry was like way different. Just way different. And same thing with children's ministry with Barbara. I went from, every we have Sundays and we have events and stuff to like we're not seeing each other. So I think like our youth and kids ministry definitely this last year was just got hit hard practically. And so I think we're kind of starting to build back up a little bit towards that. And Nate's going to hit on a little bit what that looks like this year. But it was awesome that like we've started to kind of kick back. I know Barbara has been doing like children's videos every single Sunday. They come out Sunday morning for kids, and those actually get a pretty good amount of involvement. And we've actually recently, in the past couple months, started re-meeting with youth group with just in my backyard, which has been great. And having s'mores every night, and it's fantastic. So a couple other things I've been going on, and you guys have heard this because I think we've just talked about it from the stage a ton. But man, our men's Bible study, I'm just gonna brag a little bit, but it has been incredible. It went from like 4 or 5 dudes on a Saturday morning meeting here at the church. To we had like 12 guys, 13 guys on yesterday, and we're doing it over Zoom, and not only that, but the conversation and just the actual just depth of that has been so good. It's something that's just exploded over COVID time. Like it's something that I know our women's ministry has been really successful and well attended and well involved in here at Cornerstone, just historically. It's like it feels like our men's study is like catching up to it or something. It feels like it's catching up to Jenny over there and her crew. So it's just been a really encouraging thing for, I think, for us in this time as we've adjusted to this. It's actually been really successful, and that's been an awesome thing for us, the church. And beyond that, I just think, man, like we as a church, our numbers as a whole who've like been visiting, and like it is like kind of we've dropped a bit overall, and not just like if you count up the people who are live in person and people who are watching online, we dropped a little bit overall. But man, I feel like there's been a tangible increase in just our community that's going on here at church, right? Our closeness together, I think, has been such a I think that has just exploded in this time, and partially is because just that's what this last year looks like. Like, we are close with people we are close with, and we are not close with people we are not close with at all. But man, I think that's been such a good thing. I know personally I've been really encouraged by that. So it's been like a challenging year, but it's been a cool year. It's been a good year. I think we've grown so much as a church. And I think even I think we talked about this in December of 2019. You can think back to that as Sam left. I remember talking about what we want to look like as a church. As I never met Nate at that point, and like I didn't even know who Nate was. We had no idea who this person was going to be. But we talked a lot about preparing ourselves to be a church that is exciting for someone to come into, that is ready for someone to come into and like lead forward, and to direct forward. Which I think we've positioned ourselves well to do that, I think, in this time, which I think is an awesome thing for us. So that's what I'm going to share. That's kind of my recap for the year. I'm going to pass it off to Doug, who's going to talk a little bit about finances. I will ask real quick before Doug comes up, is there any questions about kind of this last year ministry stuff, or we'll just have Doug take over? Cool. All right.
All right. I actually take my mask off in church now. All right. Well, I understand you guys have slides, because I'm looking right at them, so I know they must be true. So, on the app, it's under notes. Actually, bottom right, annual meeting slides. So, last year, February of 2020, we stood up here and we presented, a financial budget. And we had all these projections, and went through the great exercise to come up with this exact revenue and expense projections, and that was in February. And then March, kind of like the world changed. And so I guess the one thing I will say overall is that we had an incredible year when it comes to income and expense. We had a surplus of a little over $60,000. Even though our you can see, if you look at the 2020 compared to 2019, that would be revenue and expenses. We had a 10% decrease in revenue, but we also had about almost a 50% decrease in personnel expenses, which we didn't have a senior pastor. And that's no payroll, no medical expenses, no fat cat account, personal account spending. Who knows what Sam did, Now we got Nate he gets a big fat cat expense account. But no, it's a modest expense account. I think tacos once in a while and blue butterfly stuff like that. But so you can see the almost about 105,000 less in expenses, and resulted in a surplus of 60,122. And so if you compare that to budget, it's like, why even compare to budget? Because the budget was unrealistic, when March 13th came around last year, when everything just changed. We had all kinds of things projected for ministry programs, and we had kind of also earmarked a new pastor to be hired probably around April or May. But it is what it is, and life happens. So about probably roughly $65,000 ahead of budget, so that ain't bad. So I have to pat myself on the back for coming in and having such a great year, so I appreciate that. So I want to go to the balance sheet, because the $60,000 of surplus is just part of the story. In talking to the board during the year, they said, well, you know what, there's a government program out there called the PPP loan, Payroll Protection Plan. And turns out we qualified for it, and so we talked about it. Well, maybe we should apply for it. What could we get? And going through the calculations, we're allowed we could get about $40,000. I think it was $42,090 is what we could receive. And so the thought was, well, you know, at some point we're going to be hiring a new senior pastor. We're going to have deficits. We're going to make investments. You know, we don't know what the revenue picture is going to look like going forward, given this new style of church. And, you know, we just don't know how things are going to look when things get back to normal. So we took it, and it came in, and it was like $42,090. And we're now in the process of it can be forgiven. And so when that gets forgiven, that will be income. But the cash did come in. So our cash, when I talk about the balance sheet, our cash grew from that standpoint, from income, our surplus, and the PPP loan, about $102,000 is our increase into our working cash. And then we also had a nice little gain in our investments. We have a mutual fund portfolio. We started the year at, if you look on the balance sheet in 2019, the beginning balance was $80,162, and we ended at $123,141. Now that not quite as big a gain as you might think, because we decided we had a certificate of deposit of $20,000 mature during the year, and so. And this was right about when things were getting really ugly in the stock market around March. And so we actually put the $20,000, decided to put it into mutual funds. So we ease that in over time. And so that actually turns out to be a pretty good decision. But overall, we gained about 23% on that portfolio. And when you look at our potential cash working capital, we have, I don't have it calculated here, but you had 123,000, 181,000, and the 58,000. And it's like, it's about 300 and, I think it's like 380,000, I believe. No, I take that, see, 360. Yeah, it's about 363, something like that. Not bad. All right. Any questions at this point on anything that happened during the year? What you see so far? So I just want to talk about now the proposed budget for 2021. And, that's the last slide you'll see on the notes. And we, kind of calculate, we expect a, increased revenue to $278,000. And that was calculated based on, we'd start to see an increase in giving the last 6 months of the year. So kind of picked up on that trend and added about 5%, and then extrapolated that over the year 2021. So as in church finance goes, you never know what's really going to happen, so we'll just see what happens. But that's kind of the methodology of that calculation. And then we're 99.99% sure the government will forgive that $42,090 loan. And then with the personnel expenses now, we now have a senior pastor and his expense account. And I'm sorry, am I? Oh, you haven't heard yet? Yeah, Logan will. It's kind of a secret. And if you look at on the budget, if you look at ministry, we're looking at a 35% increase from last year, because we're anticipating, and talking to the board, we're anticipating possibly last half of the year actually having some real ministry again, having a women's retreat, a men's retreat, VBS, and there was some other activities here where we get some family activities, get some movies and bouncy houses, things, all those good things that go on with ministry, and so we're building that in, to that ministry budget for a seeing things hopefully get normal the second half of the year, and that would put it at the first calculation would be we have a surplus of $24,634, but that factors in the forgiveness of that loan of $42,000 plus. So if you in the small notes down below, it without that $42,000 forgiveness, it would be a deficit of $17,456. But we're at what we're looking at is this an investment to to start up the church again, to doing real hands-on ministry. And we've been here before, and we know it's going to work. So, any questions, comments? I mean, that'll just turn it over to Nate, and we'll just have the vote to vote on the budget.
Doug?
As long as it's quick.
So Donna asked, so our CD and money market they almost doubled, is that right? Or is it because there was the maturity of the...
Okay, let's go to the balance sheet. Yeah, it went from 100,000 to 181,000. That was your question? The money market fund, CDs and money market CDs. Yeah, a couple things there. We had let's see, $100,000 in CDs at the end of last year, and you know what was happening is that with the Federal Reserve's operation with the pandemic and everything, interest rates pretty much went to zero. So we were having CDs. We were earning, it got up to about 2.5%. We're earning on like about a year and 3 months. I think it's called a ladder, where we'd stick every time a CD would mature, we'd stick it out like 15 months out, and then every 3 months we'd have a CD mature and just keep rolling $20,000 every 3 months. We'd have that, and all of a sudden we started going from 2.5% to 0.15%, and so that's where we took the 20,000 out, and so. What we also did then, we had a fair amount of money in with Chase Bank where we're getting zero on. So we moved we put $101,000 with Chase Bank into the money market funds at Schwab. And so we went from 0 to 0.05%. So it's kind of like this, what do you do? But that's what we did. We moved money from our bank, and then we took 20,000 out of CD. So the adding of 101, subtracting 20, got you that number where we're at. All right.
Thank you, Doug. Let's give a hand, Doug. Thank you for all those details, because I just found out we have an expense account. So cool. First off, I do want to thank you, church, for the support that you've done. The generosity is above and beyond. God is continuing to provide through you, and we're just grateful for that. So I just want to highlight that. And secondly, just a couple of things about this upcoming year, just as we head towards thinking about what it looks like to actually use this building. I've always wanted to preach inside there. It'd be awesome. So that would be cool, right? So we're talking about that with the board, and we had come to a conclusion that right now it's at 25% they're allowing for capacity. And if that's the case, just to explain that, we've been counting about 60. Is that right, Mike? Or around 60? So 50 to 60 folks that come on a regular Sunday morning. So like the capacity at 25%, there's only like 30. But then if we move the kids down, we could still kind of like slide in there. But the problem becomes if people like come to visit, then it's like, oh man, this gets really hard, right? So what we're trying to say is eventually we want to wait until the capacity increases. And then we would feel safe, like, hey, if people come and it's more than 30, it's more than 50, then we feel good about that. It'd be a lot better that way, right? Instead of having to kind of finagle it and see, oh man, what if we have to make an outside overflow? So the idea here is, again, just waiting until the capacity gets greater, then we can move it inside, feel like we don't have to move in and out, right? And that's kind of what the board decided, if I remembered right. You guys correct me if I'm wrong by shake of head or something, right? Throw something at me. But at this point, that's kind of where we're at. So that's the next step. The Children's Ministry is planning VBS, though, so that would be in August 2nd through the 6th, and that's in the summertime. All right, so that's what we're hoping for in that. Youth Ministry, we're thinking of something in the summertime as well, probably a camp, right? Something to get together with, if I'm reading Logan's head nods right. Cool. And then men and women's group will continue to meet and just hope to do something in-person gathering towards the end of this year. So maybe you're looking at fall, right? So that's what I'm thinking. Okay, great. Thank you for that. Other than that, I actually do want a motion for the budget, right? That we go ahead and approve that. So motion is out. Someone on second. Thank you. And then I believe vote, just to, by hand, raise of hands. Yay. That the budget for the proposed budget is okay. Great. Thank you. All right. Other than that, that's moved all the way through. The next point we have up is what I'm hoping for this upcoming year, and kind of what I just shared this morning. just pressing into those things, right? Like I know that we've been at this church for a while. Let's see where God is taking us in this next season, right? Which means, what does it look like to lean in upward relationships? What does it look like for inward, deeper relationships? What I'm going to hopefully bring to this is just kind of keeping us accountable to that, right? Like, hey, God, what does that look like in real time for us as a church? And I believe as we lean into those places, the outward piece is going to come into play as well, right? As a community, how are we reaching out to those that are around us? What does that even look like? So that's going to be a part of the meetings more and more. Even as I do meetings, I kind of want to hit on these elements, right? So if we're doing board meetings, if we're doing kind of all these other meetings that we have, we're going to touch on something upward. We're going to hit on something like how are we doing in building inward, and then also what are we looking at outward to really grow Cornerstone Church and really bring glory to God, right? So those are the elements I'm hoping for. What that looks like, I welcome like what's going to be coming up this upcoming year. So excited for that. Any questions at this point about anything I've said or anything beyond what I've said? What do you think, Logan?
This actually, Robin Grace asked a question. If you want to repeat this, mic.
Sure.
Robin Grace's question was about have you looked into air conditioning or so basically
HEPA filtration, air conditioning. Yep.
opening up all the windows, likely so we have a lot of airflow in there.
Mm-hmm.
So rely on the air conditioning. But yeah, so I think we're waiting until we get to the number so we can actually have more. But that is an option potentially look to at one point.
Yeah, we haven't considered that yet. Right. That's a possibility. Yeah, good point. Okay, so the question being, can we do 2 services, right? And then that would kind of solve the problem with the 25%. And yeah, something we haven't considered yet, so we could definitely talk about that. Then the HEPA filtration, the air conditioning, to address that, as far as the upstairs goes, we're thinking about opening up the windows and just letting the air flow through it, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good. Any other things that we're missing? Great. Well, this would conclude the annual meeting as far as I'm concerned. Is there anything else? Logan? Oh, another question. Thank you. Yeah, please. That would be great. Yeah. Instead, Logan's telling me to tell the mic.
Right? Hey, CrossFit 310 right there, baby. So the question's from Donna, and she's like asking about our missionaries and why haven't we talked about our missionaries much? And partially this is, just kind of my badness last year. I haven't been putting that at the forefront for our people. So just to give you an update on where our missionaries are at. So we have 3 missionaries that we have been supporting as a church. That's the Niagara Finds, the I-Coast, and the Chayas. And so you guys have all met those people in the last 4 or 5 years. They've visited this different time. So kind of where they're at, the Chayas are in Barcelona, Spain. They're working with Muslims. They continue to do so, and actually had pretty good success in this past year. That's kind of where the Chayas are at. And so and then the Niagara Finds have been in Thailand, and Keith and Sarah, and you guys met them as well. And so they've been there for the past year, and they're actually coming back, and they're going to be back here in the stateside pretty soon as well. So we'll actually probably get a chance to talk to them and kind of recap what their last couple years of ministry have looked like. And then the third family, the Icos, if you guys remember them, they're in Bosnia. And so we actually decided, this is the board and me talked at the beginning of last year, and we decided to stop supporting them directly, not because they're doing anything bad or anything like that, but we just wanted to do a couple things. So we were, as a church, we've talked about this many times, we have 10% giving that goes towards the Great Commission Fund or goes towards outreach as a whole. And so we were kind of divvying that up, like 25% for the Noggin Finds, 25% for the ICOS, 25% for the Chayas, and then 25% goes to the CMA Great Commission Fund, which just goes to support what the CMA is doing with supporting missionaries and supporting just financially. And so our direct things were going towards those families ministry budgets as they go. Basically, the CMA kind of supports, and correct me if I'm wrong, they support them like living wage essentially, but then our money goes to support their ministry expenses, kind of thing. Yeah. What's up? Yeah, go ahead. So I'll repeat them. Yeah. Uh huh. Mm-hmm. On the. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm going to attempt to re-say that so people online can hear it. So about $25,000 went towards our outreach giving as a whole, and about half of that, because we decided to stop supporting the ICOS with that 25%. So 50% went to the Great Commission Fund, 50% went to split up evenly between the ICOS, or not the Chayas and the Nigan Fines in Barcelona and in Thailand. So that's kind of where they're at with their giving. And so going back to the reasoning why we kind of stopped supporting the ICOS was just because we felt like there wasn't as much of connection there. And one thing we really want to build towards with missions, like something we planned on doing in 2020, which sounds like so far we planned on doing a mission trip to Thailand, right? Like that was like on the docket. We were planning going in like the end of February, which that would have been really interesting. So that was something we decided not to do because like the team was like most of our like core leadership here at the church, and for us to go in the midst of like not having a head pastor here too was like, well, that'd be interesting. So we decided not to do it for that reason, and it ended up being a good decision on many reasons. But yes, that's kind of where we're at. So we stopped supporting ICOS because we couldn't really build towards like just a long-term relationship of building and eventually being there with them wasn't really practical with our ministry. So that's kind of why we opt out of that. And also to free up, just put you on the spot here, Nate, but like to free up some funds in terms of that towards like if Nate wanted to partner with a specific like family or a specific ministry kind of going forward. So open up some funds for that as well. Yeah, so I think that answers the question.
Thank you, Logan. And yeah, this sounds like we're being able to reallocate funds and really think through, and as a church, pray together, like where are we going to put our finances? How do we steward this well? That's ultimately how I see money. It's really God giving us the ability to bless others. So how do we steward that well? Is we're going to look to the church to do that, right? So yeah, looking forward to that as a body here. Super privileged to be your senior pastor, and I'm like Jasmine and I wake up every morning. We're like, man, I can't believe it. Like we're actually, a part of this church, and it's such a blessing to us every time we come. So thank you guys for inviting us into this. I hope and pray that you'll be patient with me. I'm on a learning curve as well. So, so many people have been helpful to me, and I appreciate Tina. Thank you so much. And Doug and Logan, man, you've been holding this up. So yeah, just give them a big hand. You guys have had a great pastor. I just want to emphasize that. Like, I would go to any church Logan's pastoring right now. Like, he has been doing so much here. So I just want to thank you, Logan. Just recognizing that as well. So, yep. Same thing with Jesse, man. Love the worship, and thank you for leading that all this time. We're just a blessed as a family. I can't wait for Kairos to continue to grow with you guys. So let me just close this in a word of prayer and send us off. God, thank you. Thank you that you are alive and well, that you are here today, that you have been here. And we get to be able to recognize that. And so, God, we look forward to what you're going to do in this church. We look back and we are just grateful. There's so much opportunity here, Lord, so much goodness here. And I'm just honored to be a part of this family. So, God, would you bless us? Would you continue to unfold what it is that we have before us? Would you help us to listen with a discerning ear as to where you're calling us to steward our time, our tithing, and our talents to, Lord. So as we do that and as we lean into it, we know that you're ahead of us and that you will do good things through us. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, church, I think that concludes it.